So do you have your passport? Is it still valid? Well, in this episode, we're going to be sharing our top 7 things to do before you travel abroad. So you've got your flights booked, your hotels, your itinerary set. It's perfect. You've even also found the perfect shirt to wear. But are you fully prepared for your much-deserved vacation abroad? As exciting as all that is, you don't want to have your trip ruined by forgetting to renew your passport or even getting a travel authorization. Now, these are just 2 of the 7 things that we're going to be talking about today.
Hey there, we're Joel and Michelle, and we're helping you live a more abundant life by traveling abroad. We've actually been traveling full-time for the last 5 years, and we've made a few of these mistakes that we're going to go over today. So first up is you want to have your passport, and that's probably the most important one, is make sure that you have your passport book, especially if you are going outside your territorial borders of your home country. You're going to need your passport book or your trusted traveler program card. There may be a few exceptions, but almost every destination beyond your country's borders requires a passport, especially if you're going to be traveling by air. Okay, so now that you have your passport, make sure that it's still valid. Check the expiration date. Most countries actually require that your passport is valid for at least 90 days past the departure of the country that you're going to be traveling to. So a really good rule of thumb is to make sure that your passport is valid for at least 6 months past your planned departure date. Also make sure that you have passport pages left and that none of the pages are torn or damaged. I actually have a little cover on my passport just so it keeps it nice and safe. And then a good rule of thumb is to make sure that you leave 3 open pages with no tears. You don't want any damage or writing or put any kind of like souvenir stamps on them. This will definitely give you trouble at immigration and probably denied entry. And then we've also shared a couple articles about this in our newsletter about this happening to other travelers. So if you are interested in signing up for a newsletter, you can scan the QR code.
So let's talk about visas and travel authorizations. So in addition to your passport, you're going to have to make sure that all your documentation is in order. Now, in this case, we're talking about either a visa or a travel authorization. Either one of those, or maybe both, might be required for legal entry into the destination country that you're traveling to. So we're just talking about tourist visas in this video. Now, depending on your passport, there are going to be a lot of countries available to you without having to get a visa before your trip. Now, this can be visa-free travel, visa on arrival, or even e-visas. And you also may be required to apply for a more traditional visa, in which case you may have to do that far in advance, usually a couple months in advance, as well as submitting additional documents and photos. Now, with the exception of the visa-free travel, you can expect to pay a fee for these visas. Now, there's also these things called travel authorizations, as well as e-arrival cards. Now, in addition to your regular visa requirements, some countries are now requiring a travel authorization. Essentially, it's a pre-screening process that you need to apply for online prior to your trip. The travel authorizations are in addition to any visa requirements, and they're generally good for months up to a couple years. A few examples of these are the UK, Australia, New Zealand, and soon the EU Schengen countries too. Again, ETAs do have fees attached, however, they're generally affordable. Additionally, many countries are starting to implement an e-arrival card, which replaces your traditional paper arrival cards. Generally, you're going to have to fill this out online between 72 hours prior to your arrival, like in the Philippines or even Thailand, and they're also usually free. Essentially, this is just your immigration document. Depending on where you're going and how long you're going to be traveling for, understand how long you can actually stay in the country. Whether it's going to be a short trip or a longer trip, you're going to want to make sure you understand how long you're actually legally allowed to stay there or how long your visa is good for. This is especially important for longer term travel of several weeks to months, which is what we do all the time. In those cases, be sure to note your exact exit date if it's a longer trip, and don't forget to count your travel days. So overstaying can actually get you fined, banned, or even both. There may also be additional requirements along with your regular travel documents, like proof of funds, proof of travel medical insurance, or even in some cases, a background check.
So speaking of travel medical insurance, it's always a good idea to have insurance, whether it's required or not. We carry it on all of our trips. You never know when you're going to need it if you have an accident or you need medical evacuation. Most insurance plans in the United States don't offer coverage outside of the country. So you'll want to make sure that you sign up for another travel medical insurance when you're traveling overseas. And that could be something like Safety Wing. So Safety Wing has two plans depending on the type of coverage that you might need. The first one is Nomad Insurance Essential Plan, and that's travel medical insurance that covers treatment for new or unexpected issues while you're traveling, hospital stays, surgeries, medications, and then also related to travel, it could be lost luggage, travel delays, emergency evacuations, and it also can include up to 30 days of medical coverage in your home country. And if you're looking for a more robust option, maybe something similar to what you have back home, consider Safety Wing's Nomad Insurance Complete. And this is full insurance with extra travel protections. So this is everything in the Essential Plan, plus routine medical care anywhere in the world, wellness therapies, mental health support, cancer treatment. It also includes additional coverage for things like burglary, canceled accommodation, travel delays, and also luggage. And there's no coverage of restriction at your home country. Even though it has Nomad in the plan name, you can purchase coverage for short trips like a vacation or long trips like we do when we go for months at a time.
Let's talk about staying connected with your mobile phone while you're traveling. So this day and age, obviously, we are very dependent upon our phones. We use them for everything from ride shares to ordering food, checking the weather, or even using it for two-factor authentication, so you can check your bank accounts and things. So this is why it's super important that you stay connected on your trip while traveling abroad. Now, we made a whole video about all the different ways that you can stay connected while traveling abroad, but today we're just going to talk about a few. So for shorter trips of maybe a couple of days to maybe up to a month, the easiest way is to have a top-tier mobile phone plan. That's going to be one that includes some kind of international data that's already included. Now, if your phone doesn't have that, any kind of international data roaming, you're going to want to make sure you turn your data roaming off in your settings in your phone. Basically do this before you take off, because if you land and it connects, you're going to be using that data, and they charge a lot of money for that, and you don't want any surprises when you get back from your vacation. Now, some carriers may actually offer like an international package that you can add on, or even sometimes day passes as well. The problem with those is that sometimes they can be kind of costly for what they are. So another option is to purchase a local SIM card upon arrival in a country. But for that to work, you're going to have an unlocked phone, and you're going to still have to physically swap out that SIM card. Now, if your phone is unlocked and it's maybe fairly new, the last couple of years, it should be eSIM capable. If so, you can actually just download an eSIM and activate it prior to your trip, and you'll just have data when you arrive. We've actually been using this option for over a year now, all across Europe and Asia. And if you want, you can actually check out some of our eSIM reviews. I've reviewed a lot of them in this time. And you can also look at the ones that we recommend by clicking on the QR code. It takes you to our resource page.
Another really important thing to think about is make sure that you have backup payment methods for your credit cards and your debit cards. So we highly recommend that you carry multiple payment methods, preferably from different banks and also from credit institutions. So we've run into this. We actually had a ATM machine eat our debit card when we were on our honeymoon. And luckily we did have a backup for that. And sometimes credit cards just don't work, and we don't know why. It just happens. Also make sure that you check the expiration date on your credit card, because we've run into this too. We were in Bulgaria and our credit card expired, and I think it took about a month for us to get a new one. So make sure you check those expiration dates. So make sure you bring at least one set of credit cards and debit cards, along with at least one backup of each, preferably from different banks. So ideally, you want to have a travel credit card that has no foreign transaction fees. We'll leave a link in the description below of the cards that we've been using for the last several years, and that will take you to our resources page. Another big tip is to limit your debit card usage to protect against fraud and also bank holds on your checking account. We recommend that you only use your debit card for withdrawing cash from the ATM, and also to just make sure that the ATM is connected to a bank. That way, if something happens to your debit card, you can go in and see what's going on with it. Also know that your withdrawal limits for each debit card, and remember that local banks often have different daily withdrawal limits, because they may be less than back at your home country's bank limit. Like in Vietnam, Here, we're only limited to taking out like $200 a day, whereas we know in other countries it's a lot higher. We also recommend that you use your credit card whenever possible. It offers you the best protection against fraud. Plus, if you have a credit card that offers points, it's a great way to rack up those points. And just make sure that you track your spending and use it responsibly, and make sure that you pay off that credit card every month.
So now let's talk about some necessary travel apps you want to make sure you download prior to your trip. Now, obviously we use our phones for everything. And when you're traveling, you have a lot of travel-related apps that are going to be very useful. Be sure to research the country that you're traveling to see what kind of travel-related apps they might have available there, and make sure you have those downloaded on your phone. Additionally, if you can set them up and create an account, maybe even attach a payment card, definitely do that before your trip. Most of the apps we're recommending that you download ahead of time are going to be things like transportation and communication. For instance, like the airline you're going to be flying on, whatever the local transportation is, like for ride shares or even trains. Now, for instance, like in Europe, that might be Bolt or Uber, and for Asia, that might be like Line or Grab. Also, apps that help you communicate better, like Google Translate, WhatsApp, and if you're going to be using an eSIM, make sure you have that downloaded ahead of time as well, especially if you're going to need some data abroad. Also, don't forget your banking apps too, because you want to make sure you're checking in on your accounts, especially if you're going to be away from home for a while. And the one that we use probably the most out of any of them, Google Maps.
Next up is making sure that you have digital copies of your itinerary and also accommodations and essential travel documents. So we highly recommend that you have digital and physical copies of all of those documents for identification and also proof of your travels. So this includes digital copies of your hotel, your flights, your other bookings, as well as e-visas, travel authorizations. And then also make sure that you take a picture of your passport and upload it to the cloud or your phone. And then we still recommend you also carry printouts of your itinerary and everything that we just mentioned, and make sure that you keep them in your carry-on. Don't put them in your checked luggage, because that might not make it with you. And then also make sure that your itinerary is shared with a loved one or a friend so that people know where you're going to be on your travels.
If you haven't already, be sure to sign up to our newsletter for travel tips, curated articles, and much more. Also, don't forget to subscribe to the channel, especially if you're interested in learning how to live a more abundant life by traveling abroad. And as usual, all the links that we talked about will be in the description. We just hope that these tips have helped you as much as they've helped us in our travels.
Happy wandering.
Happy wandering.